The bitter taste of that morning coffee still haunts my nightmares. Not the bourbon I drank at my daughter's wedding in 1998. Not the cheap whiskey from my college days that left me sick for 3 days. It was the metallic aftertaste I'd been dismissing for 6 months. The flavor I'd blamed on our new office coffee maker. The warning my body tried to send while my best friend sat across from me, smiling, asking about my weekend. Arsenic, 0.03 milligrams per cup, carefully measured to kill slowly enough that no one would suspect murder. 172 doses over 26 weeks. Administered by hands I'd shaken in a handshake agreement when we started this company in my garage 23 years ago. The worst part wasn't the hair falling out in clumps or the tremors that made typing impossible. It was watching James Carter, the man I'd called my brother for a quarter century, calculating how many more doses before my 51% ownership of a $200 million company would transfer to him through our partnership agreement. My name is Michael Anderson, and this is the story of how my best friend tried to poison me to death, and how I made him pay for every drop. James and I met in 1999 at a tech conference in San Jose. I was selling enterprise software. He was doing IT consulting. We clicked immediately, over shared frustrations about working for corporations that couldn't innovate their way out of a paper bag. Within 6 months, we'd quit our jobs and started DataCore Solutions in my garage in Mountain View, California. My wife Linda thought we were crazy. James's girlfriend at the time said we'd be bankrupt within a year. They were wrong. By 2005, we had 30 employees and $7 million in revenue. By 2015, DataCore was the leading cybersecurity analytics platform for mid-sized companies, with 200 employees and $50 million in annual contracts. James handled sales and client relationships, while I managed product development and engineering. We were the perfect partnership. More than that, we were family. When Linda got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in 2021, James was at the hospital before my daughter Sarah arrived from Chicago. He sat with me through the surgeries, the failed treatments, the awful, final weeks. After Linda died in March 2022, James checked on me daily for months, made sure I ate, dragged me to the gym, kept me from drowning in grief. I don't know if I would have survived that year without him. That's why it took me so long to see what was happening right in front of my face. The symptoms started in early September 2023, about 18 months after Linda's death. I'd finally started feeling like myself again, throwing myself back into work, approving our expansion into European markets. Then, I started getting tired. Not regular tired, but bone-deep exhaustion that made climbing stairs feel like running a marathon. I'd fall asleep at my desk, wake up confused about what time it was. "You're pushing too hard, Mike," James said, refilling my coffee cup during our Monday morning meeting. "Your body's telling you to slow down. You're not 30 anymore." He was right. I was 58, and I'd been working 70-hour weeks trying to make up for the time I'd lost during Linda's illness. I cut back to 50 hours, started taking weekends off, but the fatigue only got worse. Then came the nausea, the stomach cramps, the headaches that felt like someone was driving nails into my skull. I'd rush to the bathroom 3 times during executive meetings, embarrassed and frustrated. My doctor ran basic blood work and found nothing concerning. "Probably stress and getting older," she said. "Try reducing caffeine." I switched to decaf everywhere except the office. James always brought me regular coffee during our morning meetings, insisting I needed the energy boost to get through strategic planning sessions. "This is our crucial growth phase, Mike. Can't have you falling asleep during investor calls." By November, I'd lost 20 pounds. My hands shook so badly I couldn't sign documents without steadying my wrist with my other hand. Sarah called every day, worried about her disappearing dad. But every test came back normal. No cancer, no diabetes, no obvious explanation for why a healthy 58-year-old man was wasting away. "Maybe it's long COVID," Tom Fletcher suggested during a December board meeting. Tom was our CFO, had been with us since 2008, one of the few people I trusted completely. Or chronic fatigue syndrome. My sister had similar symptoms. James jumped in immediately. "Mike, you need to take medical leave. Let me handle things while you focus on getting better." The company can't afford to lose you long term because you're too stubborn to rest now. Something about his eagerness made my stomach twist, but I couldn't pinpoint why. James was my best friend. He'd held my hand at Linda's funeral. Why would I question his concern? The first real warning sign came during our annual holiday party in mid-December. I'd skipped the morning coffee that day because of another brutal headache, planning to just push through on water. By afternoon, I actually felt slightly better. Clearer. Still exhausted, but the fog in my brain had lifted a bit. At the party, James brought me a cup of coffee. Made this special for you, Mike. Your favorite blend. You've been working so hard, preparing for the Q1 investor presentation. I took one sip, and that metallic taste hit my tongue. Stronger than usual. I set the cup down, claiming my stomach was acting up. James's face flickered with something I couldn't quite read before his concerned friend mask slid back into place. You really need to see a specialist, buddy. This has gone on too long. That night, I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the gaunt, gray-faced man staring back. I'd aged 10 years in 3 months. My daughter was coming home for Christmas in a week, and I didn't want her seeing me like this. I made an appointment with a new doctor for the day after Christmas, someone Tom had recommended. The morning of December 26th, I drove to Dr. Rachel Kim's office in Palo Alto. She was younger than I expected, probably early 40s, with sharp eyes that studied me like I was a puzzle she intended to solve. Walk me through everything, she said, not even glancing at the basic records my previous doctor had sent over. Every symptom. When it started. What makes it better? Or worse? I spent 40 minutes describing the exhaustion, nausea, tremors, weight loss, confusion. She took notes, asked detailed questions, examined my hands, looked at my fingernails, studied my hair. Mr. Anderson, when was your last comprehensive toxicology screening? Toxicology? Never. Why would I need that? Your symptoms are classic for heavy metal poisoning. The tremors, the gastrointestinal issues, the hair loss you mentioned. Even these. Mises lines on your fingernails. She pointed to faint white bands across my nails that I'd never noticed. I'm ordering a full tox screen. Blood, urine, hair sample. I want to rule out arsenic, lead, mercury. My hands went numb. Arsenic? How would I be exposed to arsenic? That's what we're going to find out. I drove home in a daze, Dr. Kim's words echoing in my head. Arsenic poisoning. Like something from an Agatha Christie novel. But I lived in Silicon Valley in 2024, worked in a modern office building, ate at normal restaurants. Where would arsenic even come from? The lab results came back on January 2nd. Doctor. Kim called me directly, her voice tight with controlled urgency. Mr. Anderson, your arsenic levels are severely elevated. 300 micrograms per liter in your urine. Normal is less than 50. You're being chronically poisoned, and we need to identify the source immediately before you suffer permanent organ damage. The room spun around me. How long has this been happening? Based on your symptom timeline and the Mises line's progression, I'd estimate 5 to 6 months of regular exposure. Do you work with industrial chemicals? Old pressure-treated wood? Have you made any recent changes to your diet or environment? I ran through everything in my mind. Same house for 15 years. The only new routine since September was our Monday morning strategy meetings where James brought me coffee from the shop downstairs. The thought hit me like a physical blow, so absurd I almost laughed. But once it entered my mind, I couldn't shake it. The timing matched perfectly. The symptoms started right after James began those special coffee runs to help me handle our crucial growth phase. The days I skipped coffee, I felt slightly better. Dr. Kim, if someone was poisoning me deliberately, how would they do it? Her silence stretched for several heartbeats. Mr. Anderson, that's a very serious accusation to make. Are you suggesting someone has intentional access to your food or drinks? Just theoretically. How hard would it be? Arsenic trioxide is available online, with minimal documentation required if you claim it's for manufacturing purposes. Small amounts added consistently to food or drinks would be difficult to taste, especially in something bitter like coffee. Mr. Anderson, if you genuinely believe someone is poisoning you, you need to contact the police immediately. I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. This was insane. James was my best friend. We'd built a company together. He'd cried at Linda's funeral. The man couldn't possibly be trying to kill me. But 23 years in business had taught me to trust patterns and data over emotions. The data was screaming at me to pay attention. I spent that evening researching arsenic poisoning. Every symptom matched. Every timeline aligned. And then I found the truly chilling information. Our partnership agreement stated that if either founder died, their shares automatically transferred to the surviving partner. We'd written it that way back in 2001 to avoid complicated inheritance issues if something happened to one of us. At the time, the company was worth maybe $2 million. Now, my 51% stake was worth over $100 million, more than enough motive for murder. That night, I barely slept. Every interaction with James from the past 6 months replayed in my mind, taking on sinister new meaning. His insistence on bringing me coffee, his suggestions that I take medical leave right when we were negotiating a massive acquisition deal, his questions about my estate planning and whether I'd updated my will after Linda's death. The next morning, I called Tom Fletcher and asked him to meet me at a coffee shop 20 miles from our office. When he arrived, I was already on my second cup of coffee from a place James had never been to, testing whether coffee itself was the problem or just James's coffee. No metallic taste, no immediate nausea. Tom, I need you to tell me the truth about something, and I need you to keep this conversation completely confidential. His expression shifted to concern. Of course, Mike. What's going on? Has James been acting strange lately? Pushing for changes I'm not aware of? Having meetings without me? Tom's eyes widened. He glanced around the coffee shop, then leaned in closer. Mike, I've been wanting to talk to you for weeks, but I didn't know how to bring it up without sounding paranoid or disloyal. My pulse quickened. Tell me everything. James has been meeting privately with venture capital firms about a potential buyout. He's been telling them you're planning to retire for health reasons and that he's the future of the company. He's also been in touch with several board members, suggesting that your recent health issues mean you're no longer fit to make strategic decisions. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected. When did this start? Around October, maybe early November, right after you started getting really sick. Mike, there's more. He's been moving money around in ways that don't make sense. Nothing illegal that I can prove, but small transfers to consulting firms I can't verify. Expense reports that seem inflated. I've been documenting everything because something felt wrong, but I didn't have enough evidence to bring it to you without risking my job if I was wrong about him. I showed Tom the toxicology report on my phone, watched his face go pale as he processed what it meant. Jesus Christ, Mike, James is poisoning you? I don't have proof yet, but the timing, the symptoms, the motive, it all fits. I need your help to confirm it before I go to the police. We spent the next hour planning. Tom would install hidden cameras in my office and the conference room where James and I had our Monday meetings. I would continue acting sick and vulnerable while secretly stopping all coffee intake at the office. We'd document everything and build a case that would be irrefutable. One more thing, I said as we prepared to leave. James can't know I suspect anything. As far as he's concerned, I'm still the dying friend who trusts him completely. For the next 3 weeks, I gave the performance of my lifetime. I continued losing weight by eating less, used makeup to maintain my sickly appearance, practiced the tremor in my hands until it looked natural. But I stopped drinking any beverage James gave me, dumping his coffee in the office plant when he wasn't looking or accidentally spilling it. The cameras Tom installed captured everything. James arriving early every Monday, unlocking my office with the master key he claimed to have lost years ago, adding white powder from a small vial to my coffee cup, stirring it carefully, then leaving. He did this 4 Monday mornings in a row while we documented it all. But we needed more than video. We needed a confession that would hold up in court. On January 29th, I told James I'd made a decision about my health. I want to take that medical leave you suggested. You're right. I need to focus on getting better. I'm thinking of going to a retreat center in Arizona. Spend a couple months on rest and treatment. His eyes lit up with barely contained excitement. That's fantastic, Mike. The company will be in good hands, I promise. You focus on yourself. There's just one thing I want to finalize before I go. The partnership agreement. With everything that's happened, I want to make sure the company's protected if something happens to me. Maybe we should update the ownership transfer clause. Add some more structure. Something flickered across James's face. What kind of structure? I was thinking my shares should go to Sarah instead of automatically to you. No offense, brother, but blood family and all that. You'd still run the company. Just report to her as majority shareholder. Mike. His voice took on a strained quality. That's not what we agreed to when we started this company. We built this together. If something happens to you, I should be the one who controls the company we created. It's just a precaution. Who knows? Maybe I'll outlive us both. No. The word came out harder than he intended. He caught himself. Softened his tone. I mean, come on, Mike. After everything we've been through, you're really going to cut me out like that? I'm not cutting you out. You'd still be co-owner and CEO. Sarah knows nothing about running a tech company. She'd be a silent partner. James stood up, paced to the window of my office. My lawyer's drawing up papers this week. Should be ready to sign Friday. 3 days. I'd given him 3 days to make a move. That Friday evening, I stayed late at the office, exactly as I'd told James I would, claiming I wanted to review the ownership documents one final time. Tom was in his office down the hall, and we had every camera rolling. Dr. Kim had agreed to be on standby at a nearby clinic. Sarah knew to expect my call at 9 p.m., and if she didn't hear from me, to contact Detective Morrison of the Palo Alto Police Department. At 7:30, James walked into my office. I was at my desk, pretending to read through legal documents. Mike, we need to talk. I looked up, putting on my confused, sick person expression. I thought you'd left already. What's up? He closed the door behind him, locked it. The gesture was small, but telling. I brought you something. Your favorite roast, extra strong. He set a travel mug on my desk. Steam rose from the top. Thought we could toast to the future of DataCore before you head off to Arizona. Every instinct screamed danger, but I couldn't back down now. I'd spent 3 weeks building to this moment. I had to see it through. That's thoughtful, James. Thanks. I reached for the mug, my hand trembling convincingly. Drink it while it's hot, Mike. We both know how you hate cold coffee. I raised the mug to my lips, let the bitter liquid touch my tongue, then set it down quickly. God, my stomach. Hold on. I pressed a hand to my abdomen, breathing hard. Give me a second. Just drink it, Mike. It'll help settle your stomach. In a minute. Let me catch my breath. Now, Mike. Drink it now. The mask had fallen away completely. The man standing in my office wasn't my friend of 25 years. He was a stranger with cold calculation in his eyes. Why the sudden urgency, James? Because you're changing the agreement. Because you're about to ruin everything I've worked toward for 6 months. He moved closer. Do you have any idea how exhausting it's been? Measuring the doses carefully enough that you'd get sick slowly but not so fast that anyone would suspect poison? Pretending to care about your declining health while counting down the days until you'd finally die? My blood turned to ice, but I kept my voice steady. You've been poisoning me, obviously. Though I have to say, you're tougher than I expected. Most people your age would have had a heart attack or stroke by now, but you just kept hanging on, kept coming to work, kept making decisions that should have been mine to make. We built this company together. No, Mike. I built this company. You had some good ideas 20 years ago, sure, but I'm the one who landed the major contracts. I'm the one clients want to work with. You're just the aging founder who got lucky and refuses to step aside for the person who actually deserves to run DataCore. So you decided to murder me. Murder is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as accelerating the inevitable. You were going to die someday anyway. I just moved up the timeline. He pushed the mug closer to me. Now drink this, sign the papers, keeping our original agreement intact, and we can both get what we want. You get to retire to Arizona, and I get to run the company without you interfering. And if I refuse? James pulled a small vial from his pocket, the same one I'd seen in the security footage. Then I'll add enough arsenic to this coffee to kill you within hours. Your death will be ruled a heart attack. Just another tragic case of a grieving widower who worked himself to death. No one will ever suspect poison, because I've been so careful. The perfect crime. What James didn't know was that I was wearing a wire, that Dr. Kim was recording his elevated arsenic levels as evidence of attempted murder, that Detective Morrison was in the parking lot with a warrant for James's arrest, that every word he was saying would send him to prison. You really thought you'd get away with this? James smiled. I already have gotten away with it, Mike. You're dying. Whether you drink this cup or not, the damage is done. Your organs are failing. Even if you stopped poisoning today, you'd be dead within a year, according to my research. So really, I'm being merciful by offering you the quick way out. There's one thing you didn't count on, brother. What's that? I reached under my desk and pulled out the recorder Tom had installed, holding it up so James could see the red recording light. I've been awake to your plan for 3 weeks. Every dose you added to my coffee is on camera. Every conversation we've had is documented. Dr. Kim has been monitoring my blood levels, and the police are outside right now with a warrant for your arrest. The color drained from James's face. You're lying. Tom, you can come in now. The door unlocked and opened. Tom stood there with Detective Morrison and 2 uniformed officers. James Carter, Morrison announced. You're under arrest for attempted murder and corporate fraud. You have the right to remain silent. James lunged for the coffee mug, trying to destroy evidence, but the officers grabbed him first. He struggled, shouting about how I'd betrayed him, how ungrateful I was after everything he'd done for the company. The man who'd been my best friend for 25 years was dragged out of my office in handcuffs, still screaming threats. I sat at my desk, trembling for real this time, and finally let myself feel the full weight of what had happened. The trial took 4 months to prepare. James's lawyers tried every defense: temporary insanity, reasonable doubt about the poisoning, claiming the videos were fabricated. None of it worked. The evidence was overwhelming. Security footage of him adding poison to my coffee. His confession recorded on multiple devices. Purchase records showing he'd bought arsenic trioxide 3 times in the past year. Testimony from his pharmacist friend who'd gotten suspicious about questions James asked regarding lethal doses. The prosecution presented Tom's documentation of financial irregularities. Meetings with investors where James promised them control once I was out of the picture. Emails to board members undermining my competency. A paper trail showing systematic planning to take over DataCore by eliminating me. Sarah testified about phone calls where James had suggested I might not have long to live, planting seeds so my death would seem expected. Dr. Kim explained the medical evidence, how the poisoning had been carefully calibrated to look like natural illness. On May 15th, the jury took less than 2 hours to return a guilty verdict. James Carter was sentenced to 25 years for attempted murder, corporate fraud, and conspiracy. No possibility of parole for 12 years. I felt no satisfaction watching him led away from the courtroom. Just profound sadness for the friendship that had been a lie, and rage that he'd tried to steal Linda's legacy from our daughter. The real work began after James's conviction. I called an emergency board meeting and laid out everything we'd discovered about the scope of his betrayal. Fraudulent consulting contracts, inflated expenses, attempts to manipulate board votes. Several board members who'd been in quiet communication with James resigned immediately once they understood he'd been planning my murder. Tom Fletcher became our new CFO and president, promoted for his loyalty and sharp instincts. Sarah joined the board, bringing fresh perspective and reminding me daily why building this company mattered. We implemented new oversight systems, made our partnership structure more transparent, created protocols to prevent anyone from gaining this much unchecked power again. Dr. Kim started me on chelation therapy to remove the arsenic from my system. It took 6 months of treatment, but my strength slowly returned. The tremors stopped. My hair grew back. The gaunt reflection in the mirror filled out into someone I recognized again. She told me I'd likely have some permanent organ damage, that I'd need monitoring for the rest of my life. But I'd survived what should have killed me. Datacore not only survived the scandal, but emerged stronger. Our honesty about what happened, our commitment to transparency, actually increased client trust. We landed 3 major new contracts within 6 months. The European expansion James had been secretly trying to sabotage became hugely successful. I get letters from James occasionally. They're always the same. Apologies mixed with justifications. Claims that the pressure made him temporarily insane. Reminders of our friendship, our history, everything we built together. He seems genuinely unable to understand that you can't poison someone for 6 months and call it temporary insanity. I don't respond. Some bridges, once burned, leave nothing but ashes. The hardest part wasn't surviving the poisoning or exposing the betrayal. It was accepting that I'd been blind to the darkness in someone I loved. That the man who held my hand at Linda's funeral had probably been calculating when her death would make me vulnerable enough to kill. That our 25-year friendship had been, at least toward the end, nothing but a useful cover for murder. People ask how I knew to suspect James, how I saw through his performance when everyone else believed him. The truth is simpler than they expect. I knew, because trust has limits. Because friendship doesn't involve measuring lethal doses. Because no real brother calculates how long it takes for arsenic to cause organ failure. Linda used to say that the hardest business lesson isn't learning who to trust, but learning when to stop trusting someone who's changed. She was right, as usual. The James I became friends with in 1999 might have been a good person, but the James who poisoned my coffee for 6 months was a stranger wearing a familiar face. At 60, I still run Datacore, still believe in partnership and collaboration despite everything, because giving up on trust entirely would mean James won after all. The company Linda and I dreamed about, that I built with someone I thought was family, will outlive us both now, protected by hard lessons about verification, oversight, and the courage to investigate even when the answers might destroy everything you believe about someone you love. Sometimes the most bitter poison isn't in your coffee. It's in realizing the person serving it has been waiting years for the chance to watch you die.